Hi everyone and welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks here on this Monday evening, the final stages of January, and January ending with a bang, that is for sure. We've got a lot to talk about this evening with the cold coming our way and some big time swings in our temperatures over the next 7 days. We're already in the middle of one of those swings. It's not bad outside this evening. You know, we've got all this talk of cold coming this week, but you step outside this evening, it feels downright balmy. We're above freezing, and compared to the 7 o'clock hour Sunday evening, it's 21 degrees warmer, but this is fool's gold. It is a mirage, if you will, because you know what's coming later on tonight and into tomorrow. What's coming later tonight is cold front number 1, and this will spread a little light precipitation in as we go towards late evening. You know, when I worked late last week, it looked like this, you know, could even drop a couple of inches of snow on us tonight, but chances of that really dried up over the weekend. Just not enough moisture left when the cold air arrives later on tonight. So this is going to be mostly rain coming our way in a handful of hours, and maybe a few wet snowflakes as well. All right, behind cold front number 1, it's cold, but this is not the mother lode of cold. The mother lode is waiting up in Canada. Now, this is just pretty standard Midwest January cold, but up in Canada, this is where it's hideous. I mean, these are the wind chills. Off the scale, where you don't see any coloring here, that means my scale isn't low enough. You know, we got wind chills of 60 to 70 below at some reporting stations up here. That's ridiculous. And, you know, while we're not going to see that kind of stuff around here, some parts of the upper Midwest could flirt with 60 below for a wind chill as this air descends down into the lower 48. So we have a whole host of wind chill watches, advisories, warnings. Our eastern Ohio county is under a wind chill watch. The Pittsburgh office did not issue any wind chill products today. They will eventually, and everyone's going to go under a wind chill warning at some point. So all of this will be this kind of this gray color as we go probably later into tonight. If they don't issue a warning later tonight, it'll be tomorrow. It doesn't matter either way. Impacts are still the same. It's going to get hideously, hideously cold. All right, back here in the near term, showers push in later on this evening. And again, at the tail end of this, by about 1, 2 in the morning, a few wet snowflakes. That's it. Not expecting any snow accumulation. Now, one tricky part about tonight. It's mild this evening. Some of our slush is melting a little bit. We're going to get some rain for a while later on this evening, and then temperatures are going to crash. That's a recipe for a flash freeze in some places. So early morning commuters on Tuesday, be on the lookout for slick spots, and sometimes you can't even see them. That's what black ice is, after all. It's, you know, slick areas of pavement that don't look that slick. So that's something I am a little bit concerned about later on tonight, is how quickly temperatures are going to fall, and all this slush that's partially melted today, and all the water that's sitting around in parking lots, especially from several hours of above freezing temperatures, may refreeze later on tonight. Otherwise, the story for your Tuesday, yeah, wind and cold, that is for sure. Now, there might be a stray flurry or two, especially in the afternoon, no big deal there. Now, the cold tomorrow, you know, we've seen this kind of stuff many times before. Wind chills in the single digits tomorrow. It's not going to be pleasant outside, but this is nothing compared to what's coming as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. So, cold front number 2 comes through in the middle of the night, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and there might be a band of pretty good snow squalls with this. A lot of us won't notice this, but 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, Wednesday morning, there could be some brief, very vigorous snow squalls out there accompanied by a lot of wind. And then, yeah, that mother lode of cold comes in. Rest of Wednesday, might even see some sun from time to time, but it's going to be really ineffective sunshine, that is for sure. Same thing on Thursday. I think we're going to see a decent amount of sunshine on Thursday, but it's not going to help us a whole lot in the temperature department. All right, let's talk about the wind chills. It's not often you see these colors on one of our weather maps when we start talking about these pinks. These are, you know, downright dangerous wind chills. I'm not going to, you know, sit here on this video and lecture you about, you know, bringing your pets in and that sort of thing. Common sense applies here. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're, you know, you have enough common sense and are sophisticated enough to know that, yeah, you need to bring the cats and dogs in when it's this cold outside. If you have livestock, make sure that they are protected as well. This is not cold to mess around with. This is the kind of cold we don't see very often around here. You know, this is at most once a year, and really more realistically once every handful of years at most, we see this kind of a wind chill, minus 20 to minus 30. Late Tuesday night, all day Wednesday, into Wednesday night, by daybreak Thursday, it's still minus 20 to minus 30 for wind chills. Now, Thursday, I think the wind is going to diminish pretty quickly. So with a good deal of sunshine in the afternoon, it's still going to be cold. But I think you'll notice the difference between Wednesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon. We, you know, temperatures Wednesday afternoon like 1 below. Thursday afternoon will be like 7 above. Not exactly a heat wave, but I think you'll notice it because there'll be less wind. there'll be more sunshine, and wind chills will be a little more tolerable. It'll be tolerable to be outside. Wednesday, it's going to be almost just intolerable to walk from your car into a building. Thursday, I think, will be a little bit better. So, again, the wind chill chart here, this is the zone we could be in from time to time. Late Tuesday night and Wednesday, we're talking air temperatures down around -10 at their lowest. Wind gusts and wind speeds 15 to 20. That could create wind chills well down into the -20s and perhaps even -30 or so. Frostbite, 10 to 30 minutes max with that kind of wind and temperature combination. All right, as far as air temperatures and records, it looks like we're only going to challenge and possibly break one record with this cold snap. Of course, we're in the dead of winter, and our records are pretty low at this time of the year. Our forecast minimum for Wednesday night, Thursday morning is -10. The record on Thursday's date, which is the last day of January, is -9, set in 1948. Wednesday and Friday's records appear to be safe. As far as high temperatures go, now, we're probably going to miss making this list on Wednesday, partly because between midnight and, say, 4 a.m., it's probably still above zero. Our highest temperature for that calendar day is certainly going to occur before daybreak on Wednesday. It's probably a handful of degrees above zero. Now, the afternoon temperatures on Wednesday should not make it above the goose egg. I've got -1 for an afternoon temperature. This is a list of coldest high temperatures on calendar dates. Of course, everybody remembers this one in 94. We had really cold January days in 85 and 82. This was the Reagan inaugural. I had to move Reagan's second inaugural inside because it was so cold in D.C. this day. That day we hit -5 here locally. We had a -5 also on January 17th, 82. Back in that harsh stretch of winter weather in the mid to late 70s, in 1977, we had a -4 for a high. And in 1970 and 1963, we also registered a couple of January days where temperatures did not get above zero. Talked about this last week, but in case you missed it, just a brief word on what the polar vortex is. I noticed, I looked up when NBC Nightly News started tonight and CBS News, their national news, both led with big banners that said polar vortex. And, you just got to be a little bit careful about how the polar vortex is portrayed on some outlets. The polar vortex is a real thing. It's not a new thing. It always has existed. It's just kind of gotten national attention over the last few years because it's got it's a pretty catchy name, polar vortex. That's pretty catchy. What it is a very fast-moving ribbon of air above the pole usually. When it's really strong, it keeps the cold air pretty locked up near the very high latitudes. When the polar vortex weakens, and there's several reasons why it weakens. I won't get into the meteorology on that, but when it weakens, it tends to kind of spread out, ooze out, if you will, and kind of taking on the shape of an amoeba almost. And a lobe, several lobes form, and one of those lobes is going to come really far to the south, very unusually far to the south. During the height of this outbreak. So this is a lobe of the polar vortex pivoting across the Great Lakes. The polar vortex is not a storm. It doesn't hit your house or anything like that. But what it does do is help to drive Arctic air out of here and down into here. So that's what's going on as far as the polar vortex is concerned. But, I mentioned this on 21 News at 6. Everybody knows the cold's coming, but I think a lot of people may not be aware just yet of how quick the thaw is going to be after this cold outbreak. Wind chills on Wednesday, -30 at times. Air temperatures by Monday close to 50. That's an 80-degree difference in how the air will feel in just a handful of days. So we've got a big thaw coming our way. A little bit concerned about some ice jam flooding as we get this thaw early next week because everything's going to turn very, very solidly frozen on area lakes and rivers in streams over the coming cold snap. And then we get this thaw and we could have some ice jam flooding around Eagle Creek and Mahoning River in parts of Trumbull County especially. So that's something I'll be watching out for. All right, big question on everyone's mind is, okay, we're going to get this thaw early next week. Does the cold come rushing back in? Some interesting trends lately on the longer-range modeling. I'm going to show you the European long-range modeling hot off the presses this evening. It would suggest that we've got a pretty prolonged thaw-ish pattern for the first half of February. That doesn't mean every day is going to be mild, but I don't see nearly as much cold in the pattern during the first half of February, according to the last several runs of the modeling. The European model, along with some of the other modeling, not all of it, but some of it, does bring colder cues back onto the map here in the second half of February. If you remember, and I've mentioned this many times, our February forecast, part of our winter forecast put out in early November, it suggested February would be very cold compared to average and easily the coldest month compared to average of the winter season. It's looking as we get a little bit closer to the month that the first half of the month may not be that bad. I'll do an official February forecast later on this week, probably on Friday, we should have a pretty quiet weather evening, Friday evening, and I may take care of that February forecast then. In the meantime, thanks for watching your Monday night Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here on Tuesday.